they really need to start picking up not just points but victories as well.
Yeah, in terms of injuries and kind of fallout from the weekend, anything there? I mean, I was very confused by the decision to substitute Raskin before the extra time period at Hampden at the weekend. Andy, is he carrying something? Did Danny Rohl mention anything about that?
There was no real discussion of the team news other than just to say that Lyle Cameron, his omission from the team at the weekend was selection rather than injury enforced. In terms of Raskin, I agree with you. I thought he was terrific in the second half. I thought he was one of the major contributors to Rangers' second half performance that gave him a fighting chance of getting a result at Hampden. I think I do remember him sort of limping. I don't know if it was a wee bit of cramp or...
I think he's got an ankle problem, Andy.
Say that again, sorry?
I think he might have an ankle problem and a kind of ongoing issue with an ankle, I think.
Certainly no mention of that today. Obviously, I think it was took part in training. I saw him driving out the training ground actually after the press conference, so no mention from Danny Rohl. From our first few brushes with the new Rangers manager, I'm not entirely sure he's the most forthcoming with team news. Anytime we've tried to get out of him so far, he's not been in a desperate rush to tell us his squad. But we'll need to wait and see tomorrow if the bold Nico strips up.
And there's injury issues for Roma to concern themselves with as well. I think Gasperini's going to have to rejig his front line for this game. And he, by the way, he's an entertaining character. You'll enjoy meeting him in your presser later. What if anything do we think we can expect from them? With Paulo Dybala obviously missing out, Andy.
I think it's going to be intriguing just to what degree they're putting their focus into this game, as you say.
Yeah.
The results so far would suggest to you that this isn't their main priority for the season. That they're, given where they're sitting in Serie A, they've got more pressing domestic matters to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you also have to remember that for as big a club as Roma are, they're not perennial winners by any stretch. I think a couple of Serie A titles maybe. I think they won the Conference League 2-3 years ago under Jose Mourinho, but that was like a very rare trophy win for them. So it will be interesting to see if they actually are going to come out here and go guns blazing. This is a tournament that they've got big interest in. So, but in terms of how they go about taking on Rangers, I think they've got enough quality in there that they shouldn't be fearing this Rangers teams of all Rangers teams. And it was just interesting even just speaking to Danny Rohl, though. I mean, he was talking about the Leipzig game. Obviously, he, a former Leipzig coach himself, who's remembering the scenes here 3 years ago when Rangers reached the final, and he said he'd been contacted by some of the Leipzig players who played that night just to tell him, "Wow, you're going to be in for something special if you can get this sort of place rocking again." But Rangers are a million miles off at that kind of stage right now. I mean, the three performances they've had in the league phase of the Europa League so far have been, it's hopeless so far. I mean, I think losing again, it was bad enough. The performance at Sturm Graz was absolutely abject, and it was even worse in Norway. I was over with Scott McDermott just over a week ago in Bergen, and you can let Danny Rohl off because he'd only been basically in the job for 48 hours. But I mean, I think if he didn't know what he was getting himself into before then, he certainly did after the game. Yeah,
it's interesting that you say that about the atmosphere, Andy, because Thursday nights were Rangers nights, weren't they? That was what they said under the lights. They liked this competition. They've had some excellent performances. Ibrox is absolutely bouncing. It really comes alive. It's not been like that this season for obvious reasons. But I just get the feeling if Danny Rohl can get a result and a performance out of his team against Roma, it could be the spark. It could bring it back, and it could come back really, really quickly if that was to happen.
Yeah, I think the one thing you can say about Rohl's tenure so far is that he's reconnected with the fans. The fans are singing his name. That never ever happened to Russell Martin in the short time.
Just a very short chant.
In the very in the short time he's seen it, I think fans are already seen that there's progress made. And I was saying this to Scott earlier on. I think the one thing you can be absolutely certain of, that had they actually went with Rohl at the start of the season, I'm not saying they're going to be challenging. I'm not going to say they're going to be going for Europa League, knockout stages and runs deep in that. But I think you can be safe to say that things wouldn't be anywhere near as bad as they are right now had they went with him. I think the fact that he's shown that he can be pragmatic, he's shown that he can get more out of a group of players that have been failing miserably so far, that he can get some fight out of them, he can get them to run. I think that bodes well for them, and I think if he can get a result here tonight, then that might just be the spark that really unites the fans with the team again, because it has been disjointed. The fans haven't enjoyed seeing what the team have been producing. They've been at loggerheads with the board. They were, an outright opposition to Russell Martin. But so finally, with Danny Rohl coming in, there is a wee bit of a sense of, unity again around the place. But as I say, it's early doors, and they really need to go on some kind of run. Obviously, the league wins back-to-back against Kilmarnock and Hibs will have done wonders for morale. I think a lot of Rangers fans can, as much as it's always deflating to lose to Celtic, and especially in a game at Hampden with potential to get reaching a cup final, I think they can take heart from finally seeing some small signs of progress in a big game. But they need to back that up now, and if they can get a result here, even a point, I think would go a long way just to keeping things moving forward. And if they can just nurse things to January, get a couple of additions in, then maybe a strong finish to the season, tease them up for something on further down the road. Yeah.
All right, Andy, we're almost out of time. Of course, one last question. Give us your prediction for the game.
I went 1-1 in the prediction for tomorrow's paper, just on the basis that I still think there's chronic lack of firepower at this team. I think Yusuf Chermiti is nowhere near good enough to be a Rangers centre forward. Bojan Miovski's failed to sort of rediscover his Aberdeen form, and Danilo might actually be their best option up front. But again, taking off at half time at the weekend, I just think that they're so lacking in goals right now that I think a 1-1 draw is probably the best they can hope for.
Andy Newport there, Keith. I'm glad that I heard that. That was good. David in the comment.
I'm glad you liked
it. I know you'll be chuffed that you've got my approval. David says Keith too much Old Firm, and I'm putting that up because we are going to speak about Aberdeen with Record Sports Scott Burns, who is in Cyprus. But before we do that, I understand we can hear a bit from the Rangers manager.
Okay, I see.
And fans are still very angry with some of the decisions from Sunday. The statement said that the club was unsatisfied with the explanation given by the head of refereeing. Can you tell us what that explanation was that the club got? Because fans would obviously like to know.
Yeah, I understand this. I think we spoke about two situations. Was the handball with the yellow card, or maybe the second yellow card, and then of course it was the kick against the head from Czech. I think you have always two sides. The ref has the sides, and they are looking for the rules, and we have our sides, how we see something. I think for me it doesn't matter how, if there's a kick against the head, then you have to be really careful what you're doing there, and I think this is maybe for me a little bit too difficult to understand. For me it doesn't matter if it's from the side or in front. A kick against the head is always dangerous, because you could try to get an injury from your opponent. I think this is a little bit difficult, but a handball, okay, then I think there's so many rules with the handball. It's this angle, it's this angle. But the tackle was difficult to understand. But again, with the red card, the opponent didn't. We tried our best, and after 19 minutes, you must say, even with the red card, we took it wrong. But it was still